Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another epic evening of intense racing action in the iRacing official Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and proudly sponsored by none other than the premier sim racing hardware manufacturer known as CONSPIT. We continue our campaign of top split broadcasts and strength-fulfilled races for 2025, and in Season 4, we have had highs, we have had lows, we have had drama, we have had battles, and we could see the intensity of the racing turn to its peak today, because in Week 10 of the 2025 Season 4 campaign, we have made our way to the US of A for the streets of Long Beach. Located in Los Angeles County of the US state of California, this is a circuit that originally placed host to what was the American Grand Prix all the way back in the 1970s, but since then has gone on to regularly play host to racing on four wheels ranging from GT cars through to IndyCar, and at its core is an absolutely terrifying prospect to the circuit. 1.96 miles in length, with the best part of 11 corners that weave their way through the local landmarks of the city, and with it all, the walls ever loom close. It is a true street circuit for our drivers to conquer, and as they get set for today, we're excited to see exactly how they all come away and who comes away victorious in our official Top Split broadcast in our regular Wednesday slot from the 21:45 Greenwich Mean Time or Universal Coordinate time slot. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in today on YouTube at the one and only place where this is available, and that's on youtube.com, and do search for TX141TX, Alternative Paul Walsh, and a big hello to you guys and girls as we all get set for another great race. Speaking of our schedule for tonight, and times there in GMT or UTC, and as we can see in approximately 4 minutes time, we're making our way to the grid for our 19-lap thriller, and indeed at 5 to 10 this evening we'll see all the drivers roar their way away, but there can only be one victor at the finish line. But as we come into this round, let's give you a quick recap of the weeks thus far and what still lies in wait. Because last time out, we were at the Mount Panorama circuit, and there it was all about the king of the mountain. And for week number 9, we got to see Nikolai Peterson in the end take victory after a staggering strong pole lap by the best part of 3 attempts over Philip Hammer, and he proceeded to lead every lap with Hammer settling for second. Meanwhile, Lucas Riers had a lightning start from 4th place, but Luis Felipe Calderon proved to be a little bit of a stopper, but he managed to find his way through down the Converse straight on the final lap, and it was an absolutely superb battle all the way to the finish, but Riers round off the podium. But week 10 is today, and it is of course Wednesday the 19th of November as we bring you this broadcast, and after today we remain in the US of A for our final round of racing there in the US of A, week number 11, and that'll be on Wednesday the 26th of November where we head to the Sebring International Raceway, after which we make our way back to the United Kingdom for the Snetterton circuit. But as we make our way into this week, let's talk a little bit about our circuit. It is the Grand Prix layout of the Long Beach Street circuit, located in the city with which it is named after. And as our drivers get ready to go racing around here, a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps that come with it. And it is definitely one of those circuits where you've absolutely got to be dialed in from the start, because otherwise one small mistake and you'll find yourself either finding one of the very limited runoff areas or very quickly finding yourself to a wall. And where it be the fountain at turns 2 and 3, or the run all the way over the crest of turn 7 in towards 8 and the back straight there, or the infamous tight hairpin at turn number 11. There's plenty of opportunities to get it right, there's plenty of places where you can get it wrong, but indeed for our drivers here, the only thing they'll want to do is make sure they stay out of the walls and stay ahead of their rivals. But as we get ready to go racing, of course, a quick reminder of the rules for this series. This is the open setup version of the Porsche Cup, and therefore for our drivers, they'll bring a setup of their choice each and every week of racing. The grid shall be set via closed qualifying session, which is currently coming to a close, and the race will commence via a standing start, as is the tradition of Porsche Cup racing. Drivers will receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 70 or more instant points, and should they get to 25, they will be disqualified. But we don't want to see that. We want to see plenty of classic racing, and as all of our drivers cool things on down, well, they are not too far away from heading to the grid, and with our strength fulfilled for today being 3,372 on the lower end of the spectrum compared to what we've seen in recent weeks. But to be fair, whilst we might be lacking perhaps in some of our I ratings, it doesn't discard the fact that we can expect some absolutely great quality racing here from the outset. And while our highest I rated driver out there is currently a provisional pole sitter of Philip Hammer on a 1 minute 20.263. But we've got a whole host of drivers out there today, with iRatings ranging all the way from 9.2 for our highest I-rated driver, all the way down to our lowest I-rated driver of none other than what is your door number 24 car of Ruzar Sezen. And right now, he is sitting on an I-rating of in the approximate region, I do believe, of none other there in 18th place currently of 2,200. But I-rated aside, it's always a great opportunity for our drivers to try and prove themselves in our regular top spec broadcasted race, as that's a big drift there from Federico Cruz. He makes his debut today and he drifts his way onto our screens. But in terms of those who are still on a valid lap, because they only get 2 flying laps available, we've only got 1 driver out there right now, and that is Harris Skenderi. And we can see here in the very lovely liveried APC TCO machine, as he makes way out of turn number 8 there, very close to the wall. But that's what you got to do to be able to put yourself in pole position or right up the field here at Long Beach. The walls beckon and you've got to be just millimetres away from them. But as we do hide the ratings and the licenses there from our drivers, let's focus on the times right now. And we do have plenty of returnee names, including the likes of example, well, Philip Hammer first and foremost, also Oscar Bernson, that's going to be your front row by looks of things. Also, we do have Helder Gonzalez there in fourth, but ahead of him is newcomer Joey Letriniano. And as we do see our driver come across line of Skenderi here, he moves up to 11th place for a great end to his qualifying session. He'll be very pleased with that. But we've got several drivers as well, not putting in valid times, including Philip Schmitz, also Leonor Scar, also Murillo Ramos Boto, also Brandon Stacey and Emilio Dicari, and all of them new to the grid, I do believe, for today. And therefore, we look forward to seeing what they're going to be able to do. Although Philip Schmitz does sound a familiar name, to be fair, so perhaps I've forgotten about him. If so, I do apologise, Philip. But as all of our drivers get themselves in position, we're only 30 seconds away now from making our way to the grid. But it does seem as though qualifying's come to a halt. The circuit's gone quiet, and well, it won't be quiet for very long, because once we get roaring and racing away, it will be to the sound, of course, to flat 6-cylinder machinery, 510 horsepower per car. You do the mathematics, from a grand total of 25 cars here today, with the lowest I-rating driver, in fact, being Alejandro Palacio. We are going to be hearing the best part of what will be 120, well, in fact, it will be 12,500 horsepower roaring its way around here. But as our drivers make the way to the grid, this is how they line up then for the Week 10 Top Split broadcasted race for the 2025 Season 4 campaign of the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. It is Philip Hammer who takes pole position for Pole Promotion Esports. On pole in the end by 2.5 tenths over Oscar Bernson for Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing. On row number 2, it is going to be Joey Lotritiano ahead of what is their Helder Gonzalez, with a pole racing driver from the US of A on home soil and looking to impress. Gonzalez, meanwhile, the Swiss driver there, starts fourth, only in the end what was 200ths down from third, if that, and then starting in 5th place, back on the grid once again, it's Jack Kraft, who's in the number 10, will be looking to move forward quite rapidly. Then we do have newcomer Randolph Fredericks, who starts in 6th place, and from the Britain, it's to the American there of Miguel Sierra, who is ahead of Carl McGuiness of Pole Sim Racing, and it's good to see the pole racing team out there today in full force. We then do have in 9th place Pedro Silva from Portugal, ahead of the Canadian driver of Colton Olstad, and then outside that top 10 we have in 11th place there the machinery of Harris Skenderi, and the Bosnian driver there ahead of Sebastian Schmidt, with then the German driver giving way to the 7th row of the grid, that's in the hands of Philip Puls and Alejandro Palacio. Then for the Colombian driver, it will then be the Spaniard of none other than Julian Delgado, ahead of Max Angles, who's back once again, starting 16th today. And then we do see the number 2 there, Tobias Olsen, started 17th. That's a shock to the system. He's your second highest I-rated driver here. Olsen, who's normally proven to be a podium contender. He's able to carve his way through for Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing, as if not, he's going to be in the company of Ruzgar Sezen, and the Turkish driver will give way there to Federico Cruz and Philippe Lucci, who round off your top 20. Outside the top 20, we do have there in 21st place Philip Schmitz, ahead of none other there than Murillo Ramos Boto, with Brandon Stacey and Emilio Dicari around off the final full row of the grid. And last but not least, it's Leonor Scar. But that's how they all line up, ladies and gentlemen. The grid is set, the revs are rising, the lights are going on, and for this time today, the one and only time, it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights. and it's lights out and away we go here at Long Beach as Philip Hammer gets a good start. But as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, Oscar Bernson now starts to pick up a bit of steam here as he looks around the outside in towards the initial braking zone. It's a very long run before they do get to the anchors here, and therefore it's all going to be about who's to be latest on the brakes and bravest on cold tyres and brakes. Here they come, lock up behind from one driver, contact there as several drivers go sliding sideways, and there's more drama into the fountain. Cars being pinned to the wall there, and oh goodness me, it's all gone very wrong into the fountain. Multiple drivers being caught up, and well, in the end, Latrano being caught up there, and I believe several others, including perhaps Max Angles, also Philippe Lucci. We'll have to get a replay of that as quickly as we can, but it's been drama right at the start of the race. But those who are able to avoid the drama, well, right now on the straight and now they'll be moving forward. I do believe we have damage flags out there, or in other words, cars got to come into pits for a meatball flag for Scanderi, also there for Latriniano, and I do believe a couple other drivers have got significant damage, as that's a car round in the rear of the pitch. That's Colton Olstad, who gets it very wrong there in the number 11 car, and now to try and piece things back together as quickly as he can, as the wounded Scanderi, meanwhile, well, he tries to hold on here versus Kraft, Hammer and Schwitz. Philip Hammer, they're dropping down. I don't know how he ended up falling all the way down there. Was he turned, perhaps? Well, we're not going to say if he was turned by somebody, just for the simple reason we don't want to point the finger at someone and then be proven wrong. It's not appropriate. But meanwhile, definitely a lot of surprises there. And Hammer doesn't normally get things wrong as he's missed the front bumper on that car. And well, Hammer's definitely been in the wars and the walls. But as all tries to come towards the end of what is one of 19 laps. Car round, that's Hammer round at the hairpin. Oh, no, that is not good news because they all go wide and they haven't got the steering lock here. And right now, they've got to try and turn it all the way through. Several cars parked up and one driver goes around there. It's absolute pandemonium here at Long Beach. It's all gone wrong right at the start, but now hopefully we can get the racing on the right track here as they head on to lap number 2. So dramatic opening lap, and it doesn't end there because Carl McGuinness looking for a move here versus Federico Cruz in towards turn 1. Cruz is going to defend to the inside in the Rothmans Williams livery machine, and as he puts it onto the brakes into turns 2 and 3, right now you can see McGuinness here looking left, looking right, but he can't find his way through in this fight, and Sebastian Spitz in front will be hoping he's able to just gradually pull away. But it's been absolute drama here thus far. At the front of the field, it's a change of the lead. Helder Gonzalez there up the inside for turns 6 and 7 versus Oscar Bernson, and clears his rival before they get to turn number 8, as Bernson I think has had an impact with the wall because he's now got a meatball flag as well, and that's going to be a car that's coming to the pits for repair work shortly. Indeed, loads of drivers have had to come into the pits for repair work. We have had several retirements already, including Scar, who didn't make it onto the grid, I do believe, Leonel Scar, nor have we had what is Brandon Stacey be able to complete the opening lap without significant damage. We've also got Alejandro Palacio and also Aurelio Ramos Boto are both potentially out of this race. But it's been an absolute crazy start to this race, and as Oscar Bernson tips to the pits on the left-hand side of your screen, and that's due to the damage he's picked up, well, meanwhile, Helder Gonzalez now will be hoping that this is a lot more straightforward as he just makes his way onto lap number 3. We will have to see as Carl McGuinness, meanwhile, a bit further back, he's chasing after Sebastian Spitz after finding his way past Federico Cruz. Right now, he made that move into turn 6 and 7, I've been informed, and now he's looking for another opportunity here to move into 9th place, and he's got the bit between his teeth, having started in 8th place. He wants to place his back. Looking up the inside here into turn number 1, it's a 90-degree left-hand corner, and therefore it is going to be on the outside where the optimum line is. Schmitz demonstrates that and holds on for now as we ride aboard the dashboard here of McGuinness. And coming in towards turn number 4, he's looking quick, but right, he's got to find the right place to display the speed. But as he comes out of the right-hander and over he goes on the apex. Well, right now, the number 7 driver here continuing to insist on the move, and here he comes, looking on the brakes. You see there, it's a very tight apex, and the number 15 driver Schmitz there just simply slams the door shut. Oh no! Schmitz loses the rear end. McGuinness goes with him, helps him go forward, and in the end they both just about survive. It's 3 wide, and around the outside of the pair of them goes Federico Cruz. Well, I can't believe it, ladies and gentlemen. Cruz, the end, just simply finds a way clear, and the man who started in 19th place is back up to 9th as quickly as that. More change meanwhile at the front of the field, as here is Miguel Sierra. We have lost Tobias Olsen, who's had a going around there just before he's got to the marshal's post at turn number 11. But he finally gets it back together in the number 2, and right now he's in a car that's definitely had a few bumps and scrapes, but you're hoping for nothing more than that. As meanwhile we come back then and a replay to your race start and how exactly did it all go wrong. So as our drivers got ready to race away, we look to the blimp camera, that will give us a better perspective. And in particular, we'll look to Philip Hammer at the very front of the field. We'll start with what happened to him, and then we'll take a look back at what happened elsewhere. So Hammer got a decent start, but then we did see, looking around the outside there, it was none other than what was Bernson. And into the braking zone they went. And, well, Hammer in the end absolutely pinpoint precise on the brakes, but they were too wide at the apex. Somebody came in way too hot there. We'll understand that. And Hammer in the end, oh, there was contact between himself and Bernson, and that caused a domino effect there into the corners, and that's where it all went wrong. But meanwhile, we take another look back at the race start, and we're going to take a look a bit further back down the order. The driver who came absolutely lunging into the braking zone as they went green flag racing. We're trying to understand who it was at the time. I believe it might have been our 6th place start as they got underway. We will see, but I can tell you one thing, definitely a surprise, that big lunge, and I think somebody just missed their braking zone. You can see it in the rear of the picture. It's going to be the silvery car with the green inlets on it. Misses its braking zone and comes in way too hot, and that triggers off a domino effect, and then everyone else comes into the scene the instant with Philip Hammer being turned, and then I think everyone in the scramble getting turned as well, and a few cars getting pinched there. It was an absolute mess, but that does happen on a tight street circuit, and well, when you're all that close together, there's no real way to react, shall we say. But meanwhile, from what happened between them, what happened to Oscar Bernson when he did lose the lead of the race on lap number 2. And this was Bernson coming up towards turns 6 and 7. On the inside of him was Helder Gonzalez. And Gonzalez there looking for the move, couldn't quite find it. And Bernson in the end, well, he'd already picked up the damage, in fact. That car looks wounded. I wonder if he picked that up at the fountain. And as a result, contact to the fountain has upset his race. But either way, Oscar Bernson definitely picking up damage, and we haven't seen how he's done it. But let's come back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen, because there's plenty more racing here, albeit we do have almost half the field in the pit lane right now, either retired or undergoing repair work. So this has really been a race of attrition, and we haven't even made it a third of the way yet. So it is a little bit of a difficult one, but these street circuits can spring surprises, there's no doubt about it. And this means that for some drivers, this could be an opportunity to make some huge gains and land an unexpected major result. As we do say hello there to Real Bottle Job and also Max Andrews in the YouTube chat. Both of you commenting on the fact that it has been a dramatic start, a little chaotic, Max Andrews says, and I definitely think that is going to be a contender there for a slight understatement, but completely understand there the fact that it was a bit chaotic. And also Real Bottle Job there saying that Long Beach give it to the spectators but take it away from the drivers, and indeed it has taken away quite a few of our drivers, but we will see who's going to be back out there fighting for glory, as we have still got quite a bit of time and we still have plenty of drivers out there giving it their all. Speaking of which, Philip Schmitz and Pedro Silva here together right now, and Schmitz trying to break away from Silva after making that move into 11th place, and right now looking to be gradually pulling off into the distance, although Pedro Silva would love to say something different, as I think it was this man in the number 19 who may have ended up in the open lap drama, i.e. going way too deep into the braking zone into turn number 1 and escorting a few of his rivals with him into the runoff area and the tyre section. You can see it there off on the right of your picture very briefly. There's a lot of runoff area if you go straight on at turn number 1. It's one of only 2 corners where that runoff area exists, the other one being at turns 6 and 7. And Silva there really struggling, making his way through the fountain section of turns 2 and 3. The car, I think the damage he picked up from that opening lap contact has really upset its ability to turn through right-hand bends. It just does not look capable of turning as much compared to left, and that would make sense in a way, given all the damage he picked up on the right-hand side of the car, and therefore the car's probably leaning more aggressively over on what is left-hand cornering than right-hand cornering. But Silva right now in this number 19 car trying to stay with Schmitz, but Schmitz is pulling away. And meanwhile, here is a battle between Colton Olstad and Sebastian Schmitz. Schmitz there looking around the outside, but it's not going to quite work. And indeed, Colton Olstad will hold on to that place for 8th, albeit he has picked up a slowdown penalty for track limit. I believe that was on the apex curve, effectively, of turn number 10. But he's finally got it back together, with turn number 9, I should say. But he's finally got it back together, and he served that slowdown very quickly indeed as we make our way now into the second third of the race. But at the very front of the field, Helder Gonzalez is still leading, and he's opened up a bit of a gap to 1.5 seconds over Randolph Fredericks. And then we do have Miguel Sierra sitting in third quite comfortably at the moment, a further 6 seconds behind the top 2. Is there a further 8 seconds before you do get to Julian Delgado. And Delgado, who started all the way back in 15th place, the number 14 driver here, he's only 1 place off a podium. And how about that? The fortune has come his way, and he was one of the drivers who ended up getting pushed sideways at the start of the race. You can see the damage on the front of the car there. That tells the story in the fact that he did enter into the fountain with plenty of contact on the car, but somehow he's been able to survive it. Tobias Olsen a bit further back. Right now he's on a mission. He started all the way back in 17th place. He is in a heavily damaged car, car, but somehow that car has survived, even though you can see that the front bumper and the bodywork around the wheels has been pushed backwards. The wheel arches are actually exposed, but right now the number 2 Porsche is still holding on for dear life here, and he has got Philipp Hammer 2.5 seconds behind him, and Hammer right now in a Porsche that's missing the front bumper and also missing quite a bit of bodywork behind the car as well. Well, somehow he's still going. He may have started on pole, but he's running in 6th, and that car, whereas many have been required to come into the pits, not so for Hammer. But meanwhile, speaking of taking a Hammer to a car, Colton Olstad's just had to come into the pit lane. I believe that's for contact with a wall as he parks the car up there, but we don't know any more than that. And he's surprisingly just come into the pits, and well, it's going to be Sebastian Spitz who takes the place back that was previously taken from him as he moves back into 8th place. But it does mean now we are down to effectively, at this point on the lead lap, 11 runners at this time after our 25 starters. And indeed, it has been a race of attrition thus far. And therefore, this race might now start to wind down a little bit, albeit I suspect it will be the calm before the proverbial storm. As we will have a few drivers who will be trying to build up pace, particularly those who qualified even further down, such as Olsen, even though they were expected to qualify quite high up. Also, the likes of Philipp Hammer, and also there, of course, what we do have is other wounded cars, not just Hammers, which are all trying to recover time over the distance and get the places back. But speaking of getting things back, we get back to some replays and some of the moments that happened on lap number 4 and also lap number 3. Starting, in fact, with lap number 3, this is what happened to Tobias Olsen. So this was Olsen at the time, making his way through turn number 9, and well, I believe he's going to have a spin here through turn number 10. Takes the apex curb, and the rear of the car drops slightly off of it, and I think the damage he already had has added to the difficulty in controlling the car, and went very sideways there and had to release multiple cars on through. We had this for lap number 4 from Jack Craft, and Craft was making his way down the start for this straight, but what exactly went wrong here? Not a normal place to get it wrong. Into turn 1 he went onto the brakes. Does he go a bit too late on the brakes? Yes, he does. Oh, no, that's not good at all. Craft into the barrier there, and with it as well, Julian Delgado hitting him, and how Delgado is able to carry on racing despite that contact, I will never know, ladies and gentlemen. This was the on-board perspective from Delgado. Well, he's going to see Craft is quite a way in front of him, think nothing of it, and then suddenly he'll realise Craft's carried too much speed. Delgado's already at the corner. He's got nowhere to go at that point, so Delgado committed, and also Harris Scanderi also end up in that contact as well. Speaking of Scanderi, he had this happen to him only moments later, so he ended up in that shunt initially. Car behind her went a bit sideways, and in the fountain section, contact with the number 2. That was Tobias Olsen who came up quickly, and Olsen in the end, well, turned his car into a little bit of a battering ram there, it must be said. After the first contact, I think he sent Scanderi on his way, helped Scanderi get off the racing line, but I don't think he'll be too happy with the fact they made all that contact. So a lot of surprises there, and I think right now a few tempers frayed between drivers, but sometimes that's the way it goes. But meanwhile, we've still got more racing to come, as Philipp Hammer and Carl McGuiness are getting close together now. And well, Carl McGuiness, he's always wanted to chase down Philipp Hammer, albeit I think he would have loved to have done it with both drivers having cars that have not got damage on them. But McGuiness right now take what he can get. He's going to look up the inside here. I don't think Hammer's really got a response, and McGuiness will now move into 6th place there for what is his team as the number 7 driver carries on. And the Pole Sim Racing Machine right now looking to be in an increasingly advantageous position as he follows Tobias Olsen now into turns 4, 5 and 6. As Hammer tries now to stay with them, we've still got plenty of repair work ongoing in the pits for Olstad, also Craft, Scinderi and Cruz. We've got Oscar Bernson 7 laps down, but he is out there. Credit to him, where it's due the number 4 driver for Ice Cold Sim Racing, powered by Max Sim Racing, in the fact that he is still out there and trying to make sure he gets to the end of this one. And well, he will. If he carries on at this rate, he will in the end pick up another 4 places and be promoted to 14th as a result of drivers being in the pit lane. He's just got to make the laps back up at the moment, and he has got the time to do it. As he roars his way on through what is at turn 6 and 7. Right now, it's in a car that's in a much better place compared to it was after 9.5 minutes of repair work. But understandably, the number 4 driver here would not have wanted it to go this way at all, given he started all the way up in 3rd place. Well, in the end, it's all gone very much backwards, and therefore he'll be very frustrated at that. In fact, a 2nd place start makes that even worse. I correct myself there. But meanwhile, from him, we come back to the very front of the field, and the all-black machine of Helder Gonzalez right now, well, gradually pushing that lead even more to what is 2.8 seconds now over Randolph Fredericks. And Fredericks here just trying to keep within arm's reach. But when Gonzalez is on average a 2nd lap faster, understandably, it does seem as though here it might be all about settling for 2nd. Miguel Sierra, by comparison, he's matching the pace of Fredericks, if not outpacing him a little bit. Gap is gradually coming down little by little, albeit he is going to need to bring that gap down a bit quicker if he wants to have an attacking opportunity with some laps to spare. At the moment, he is closing at approximately half a second a lap, and with there being 7.5 tenths between the two of them, you do the mathematics, with 8 laps to go, that's not enough. He needs to really extrapolate that to the best part of 8 to 9 tenths, if not a whole second lap, if he can, but that's a lot easier said than done, to be fair to him. Julian Delgado, meanwhile, sits in 4th, 3 seconds ahead of Tobias Olsen, who has got Cole McGuinness for close company. McGuinness is on the march then. He wants another place. He's feeling hungry today as McGuinness. And given the fact he's been one of the spectators for the last couple of weeks, well, to see him out here right now is the fact that he has not let the wait to be back on the grid for the Top Spit broadcast dull his racing senses whatsoever. And as he powers his way down the start-finish straight, a poor exit out there out the hairpin. But to be fair to him, he will be in the turbo, Olsen, so therefore that will give him the confidence that he can naturally close up. Olsen goes defensive to the inside and backwards to the racing line, trying to break and weave the toe. And as he comes up towards that left-hander, well, takes a lot of curb. Car goes a bit sideways, but McGuinness, meanwhile, takes even more curb and just rides it out. Through the fountain they come. You can definitely tell Olsen's car right now very unstable as we come in towards turn number 4, and turn 5 is the corner, which could expose that instability even more, depending on how well he hits the curve. Oh, goodness me, both drivers there sideways as they exit the bend. That's how hard they're pushing, using all the curb they're legally allowed to do so. Through 6 and 7 here. Olsen again, the car just sliding around there. I think the damage from earlier on is just making his car feel very loose through the medium speed apexes, and it's side by side here into turn number 8. And well, McGuinness was never going to get through, but what an attempt at it. And in the end, Olsen just gradually closed the door towards the wall, and McGuinness respectfully backed out there before he would have been making haste and mating with the concrete. But as they come through turn number 9, we can see Philip Hammer is now caught back up as well, so Hammer's with them, but this is as much the perseverance of Hammer as it is due to the fighting of the two in front of him, backing each other towards him. And Olsen right now has continued to try and prove to be absolutely stubborn as they make the way onto lap number 13. But from then we come back to Max Angles versus Philip Schmitz. Well, these two drivers as well have started a long way down in the order. Right now, of course, for a top 10, the pair of them, but either one, who's going to be ahead of the other? We'll have to wait and see, as Angles right now is ahead for a brief moment, but Schmitz is right there with him, and the American driver would love to be able to secure a huge result at his home circuit. We'll see what he can do. Schmitz right now hasn't got the straight line speed by comparison, but he's got a lot more speed in the corners. From them, coming back to the Olsen McGuinness Hammer battle, and he did be switching back and forth between these two battles for the time being. Coming out of turn number 5 and in towards 6-7. McGuinness looking up the inside again, but it's a feint. He's not close enough to think about the move. He's going to have to play the patience game there, and that patience game being rewarded. But McGuinness here, looking around the outside. Can he get it? No, he can't. He tries to get Olsen to run too deep and hit the wall. He brushes the wall with the rear left tyre, albeit gets away with it there because it is a flat strike. And as they come down towards the next bend, we can see how close it is. On the break here, McGuinness trying to go around the outside again. Olsen right now going as defensive as he can. McGuinness looking left, looking right. Hammer, meanwhile, he's got the popcorn seat view and is just watching eagerly as we ride aboard with the rear of the 3. Oh, no! That's gone wrong for McGuinness. Into the barrier, Tobias Olsen as well. They've all got caught up in the wall. And, well, as they do, well, goodness me, it is Tobias Olsen who comes off the worst of the 3 of them. McGuinness does find his way through, but not about big damage. And a black flag to boot as well for picking up enough instant points to get a drive-through penalty. Sebastian Smits is the same. He's just been passed, well, in fact, so I think he's passed Max Angles. Well, in fact, no, he's not passed Max Angles. It was Philip Schmitz who did so, and Sebastian Schmitz is going to lose out multiple places here as a result of a drive-through penalty. But let's get a quick replay of all that, starting with what happened between Olsen, McGuinness and Hammer. Now, this was them making the way in towards the turn 11 hairpin, and, well, as Olsen made his way through, trying to take it as carefully as possible. Rear of the car, let go initially. Oh, well, there was contact there. McGuinness to the back of Olsen. That turned Olsen on around, and understandably, you would imagine that Olsen be fuming about that one. And I think that was Carl McGuinness. He was so close in, he had no space to react. I'm not saying he's innocent, but the point is, as we ride on board with McGuinness, this is his perspective. Let's just listen in. And you could see there the reaction from McGuiness. I think he thought that Olsen was going to lose the rear of the car and spin deeper into the hairpin or just outbrake himself into the hairpin. McGuiness saw the space on the inside and thought, I'm going to put my nose there, but Olsen got it back under control, and at that point contact was inevitable. And I think McGuiness in the end, as much as he wanted it, patience was wearing thin, and as a result that's what brought the two together. We also had this for Philipp Schmitz on Max Angles just before, and this was Schmitz making his way into the fountain section, and Angles went a bit deep there, but kept it together, but in the end stepped aside. So Angles let it go, and I wonder whether he's decided just to consolidate what will be a top 10 finish rather than fight any harder and try and make his way even further up the order. And there's something to be said about that, to be fair, for Angles. When he is your number 22 driver, an 8th place here would give him a huge iRacing boost either way. But as we come back to your live racing, right now we do still have another 4 laps after our current one, of which we're coming to the end of it very soon, because here's your leader, Helder Gonzalez. Last lap, Randolph Fredericks was able to match him on a 20.8. It was 300 in the favour of the second place driver as they come towards the end of this one. Will we see the trend continue here? Could we see this gap start to come down? Has Fredericks just saved the tyres a little bit more, or is Gonzalez just running out of steam? Well, across the line, Gonzalez a 20.78. Fredericks, meanwhile, a 20.65. So the trend is a 10th down there for Fredericks. He's got plenty more time to whittle down, however. He needs a bit more. He needs to find a couple of attempts at least, if not about half a second, to get himself an attacking distance before the end of the race. But that's a very difficult task here, and the number 3 driver, he's pushing, but has he got enough left in the tank here to push as hard as he needs to? We'll have to see, because as he slides his way out of turn number 5, Miguel Sierra, he's fallen even further back from the top 2, now 12.5 seconds back, and Julian Delgado is nowhere near close at this point. He is gaining as Delgado. He gained the best part of half a second on that previous lap, but when you do have just under 10 seconds to your next rival, understandably Sierra is not going to be feeling any mental pressure here other than just steering clear of the walls. But from them, Tobias Olsen tucks at the inside there of Pedro Silva. And Pedro Silva there stepping aside, and very wounded, bruised and battered car as he makes his way into the pit lane, I think for contact with wall. And Tobias Olsen, once again, well, I believe his car's picked up even more damage, so he's going to have to come into the pit. So his race will not end where he finishes right now. Indeed, he's going to be demoted a lot further down, and with that, you can understand if the frustration will be building even more so, as Philippe Lucci is only 1.4 seconds behind and will take that place off him most definitely, and Sebastian Spitz will do the same. A lot of drivers still finding haste to the wall at the moment, and it's anybody's guess how this is going to end up. As me on Max Angles and Philipp Schmitz are back together. Schmitz there having a bit of a lock-up into turn number 8, carrying a lot of speed, but gets it stopped. So he was able to avoid it going wrong there. And now down towards turn number 9 they come. And Angles in 7th place here. After the back and forth between these two, he's been able to recover it. And right now Schmitz hoping to be able to find a way back into an attacking position. But I think with this race right now, if Angles can just keep his head down, he may have the better of Schmitz as they head on towards lap number 17. And as they do, let's take a look back at how Max Angles got the place back. So this was Angles making his way through turn 4 into 5. I think Philipp Schmitz is going to get it wrong here. Indeed, he does take a lot of apex curb, and it kicks the car sideways with that oversteer. And his recovery, Max Angles just decided to go for the move immediately. But we've just had this happen to Max Angles off camera, but we bring it onto camera for a replay. This was down towards turn number 1. Braking zone here, I suspect, is a lock-up. Yes, it is, and Angles goes straight on. Shows you there's plenty of runoff area and has to reverse and get the car turned around. So Philipp Schmitz returns to 7th place. I think you'll feel as though he's now going to be the one that holds on to that to the end, given it's gone backwards for Angles, and back to your live racing we are. But as our drivers make the way closer and closer towards the finish line, Helder Gonzalez right now still leading. 2.1 seconds is the gap. He's had to pick his way past a bit of traffic, and behind him there he does have what is Ruzgar Sezen, the Turkish driver there, in 12th place, right now in a comfortable 12th place. I think thinking to himself that he doesn't have to worry too much. In fact, that is not Sezen there. I do apologise. That is none other than, I do believe, Joey Lutriano. And right now, the 17th place driver, well, he's been able to get the car repaired, and he's out there racing 10 laps down, but he wants to finish the race, understandably so. He wants to make sure he doesn't lose too much safety rating. Coming down that back straight, all these drivers right now, they're all absolutely brilliant for soldiering on despite the difficulties of the opening couple of laps, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's not about how you start the race, it's about how you finish, and you always want to finish the race no matter what. And Gonzalez here right now, knowing there's only one more lap between him and what seems to be an absolutely printed victory. 2 seconds behind him, it's Randolph Fredericks. He's still pushing as hard as he can. He is the fastest driver at this point of the race in the pair of them, albeit the problem is he's only gaining at most 2 tenths a lap. It's not enough as the white flag comes out. One more tour at Long Beach is due to go, and by the end of it right now, Randolph Fredericks will need some magic to happen here, because otherwise it is second place he's going to have to settle for. In terms of battles elsewhere down the order, there's no other real battles to talk about at the moment. We do have the best part of 18 runners left in this race, but a good number of them are scattered on multiple laps down, and the rest that are on the lead lap have seemed to have all settled their differences, with one of your very last lead lap runners being Sebastian Schmitz here in 11th place, with Ruzgor Sezen off camera, but now we bring him onto camera. He's the first of your drivers who's a lap or more down in 12th. Tobias Olsen does have the meatball flag, which it does not seem to have gone away, so therefore I suspect he may be facing a post-race time penalty, our number 2 driver, who you see here, for driving with a car that needs to be repaired. But he's going to carry on here, and suffice to say, deal with it to the finish. But the number 2 driver here definitely right now trying to manage a car that is not looking very comfortable whatsoever. It does look as though it's been put through a bit of a compactor. But as he makes his way through the hairpin, one more lap awaits him. And meanwhile, awaiting him is the checkered flag for Helder Gonzalez, because he comes out the final corner where it's been a race of multiple major incidents. But for Helder Gonzalez, he started in 4th place. He's steered clear of all the danger, and the checkered flag falls for the number 5 as he wins here at Long Beach by 1.5 seconds over Randolph Fredericks, who came from 6th to 2nd, and then you've got a further 15 seconds back before you get to Miguel Sierra, who in the end, in a brilliant effort in the number 8, goes from 7th to 3rd and rounds off the podium. We've then got Julian Delgado, one of the biggest gainers today. He started in 15th place. He ended up quite heavily bruised as a result of the open lap contact in a later instant, but somehow he survived it. He finishes in 4th, and Kyle McGuinness rounds off your top 5 there for Pole Sim Racing. What a great effort from him, ahead of Philip Hammer by the best part of 7 seconds as Hammer crossed the line without a front bumper, but takes 6th place there. That is testament to Hammer's resilience. And then we do have Philip Schmitz here, who will come through shortly to finish in 7th. And having started all the way down in 21st place, he will be your biggest gainer of the night as he heads towards that timing line in the number 9, and he'll be very pleased with that result. And then we do have Max Angles not too far away, and the home hero, where in the end he went from 16th to 8th. He couldn't quite take 7th, but he'll still be proud of a top 10 finish in the number 22, ahead of Tobias Olsen, who in that heavily wounded car will finish on the road in 9th place by suspecting not getting the car repaired. Unlike what the stewards have asked for, he will see himself demoted down the order after the race, with Philippe Lucci rounding off your top 10 on the road, and then it will be best of the rest in 11th Sebastian Schmitz, as everyone else has finished a lap or more down. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it definitely was not the race we expected here at Long Beach, albeit the walls definitely claimed many a car early on, and the run in towards turns 1, 2 and 3 proved to be dramatic with absolute certainty. But in the end, we did have 11 lead lap finishers, and plenty of other cars get repaired and still finish the race under their own steam. And indeed, Long Beach giveth, Long Beach taketh, but in the end, we taketh a brief reprieve and look to our race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see, for our Week 10 top split strength of field broadcasted race for the 2025 Season 4 iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT official series, Helder Gonzalez was your winner. The Swiss driver in the end able to avoid the drama at the start as best as possible and taking that victory by 1.5 seconds over the Briton of Randolph Fredericks. In third, it was the American driver Miguel Sierra, so an American on his home circuit on the podium. That's an absolutely brilliant result there. And well, he was comfortably 10 seconds clear of Julian Delgado, who absolutely put in a huge effort to make his way through from 15th all the way to 4th. Behind the Spaniard, it was Pole Racing's Kyle McGuinness, who makes his way back into the top 5. It's been a long time since we've seen him there, but an absolutely brilliant effort from the number 7 driver. And Philip Hammer, your pole sitter, will end in, despite all the damage after turn 1 going into the fountain, he was able to get it on home in 6th place. And well, the pole promotion esports driver never giving up, that is for sure. Philipp Schmitz took 7th place, just behind his fellow countryman, and then we did see a further 9 seconds behind Max Angels, the privateer, who enjoyed a race-long battle between himself and Philipp Schmitz, and to a late error for Angels, cost him that 7th place. And then Tobias Olsen at 9th there, and he will be classified as a 9th in fact, so the fact that he did finish the race with damage to the car, well, it has been permitted, and the ice cold racing powered by Max Sim Racing driver there, muscling a car around the circuit that definitely did not look as though it wanted to cooperate, but he was certain to want to finish the race. Philippe Lucci round off your top 10 there, the privateer, 2 seconds ahead of Sebastian Schmitz, and then we did see a lap down of Rizgar Sezem, the Turkish driver being followed up by 4 laps down, Pedro Silva, and then we did have Colton Olstad and Oscar Bernson, 6 and 8 laps down respectively, round off your top 15 for the privateer and ice cold racing powered by Max Sim Racing outfits. 9 laps down, it was Harris Skenderi, who had a great start, only for it to end up in the wall early on. And Joey Latriano was also the same there for pole racing. He was 10 laps down, with 12 down to Federico Cruz. And then we did have 15 and 17 laps down there to Jack Craft and Emilio Ducari. Outside the top 20, not to be forgotten about, we did have none other there than Brandon Stacey. And, well, in the end, retiring after only 2 laps. It was a retirement for Philippe Pauls, also Alejandro Palacio and Murillo. What was there none other than Murillo Ramos Boto, and well, after what was just the race start, it was a non-start and a non-finish therefore for Lionel Scar, and what a frustrating one there for the Swedish driver. So 25 starters in the end, ladies and gentlemen, and as classified, I do believe a grand total of 17 drivers made it to the finish line, perhaps 18, of which only 11 on the lead lap. Definitely a chaotic race here at Long Beach, but sometimes that's the way it goes. But congratulations to all those who reached the checker flag, and a special congratulations, of course, to our top 3 of Helder Gonzalez, your winner, head of Randall Fredericks, and Miguel Sierra completing the podium. But with that, just before we get set to wrap up, of course, we've talked a lot about the racing today, but let's talk a little bit about our title sponsor for this series, and that is none other than CONSPIT. If you are looking to take your sim racing to the next level, then why not consider CONSPIT? As the pro driver's choice of sim racing hardware, CONSPIT offers one of the most comprehensive lines of hardware products to sim racers around the world. Whether you're in the market for wheelbases, steering wheels, pedals, peripherals, or rigs, CONSPIT's extensive experience in the motorsport industry means every one of their products is fine-tuned for success at the highest level. But do not just take our word for it. We're brand ambassadors including 2022 Grand Prix Macau GT Cup champion Luo Kaliu, 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion Liu Ye, 2022 Chinese Touring Car Championship champion Rodolfo Avila, and 2023 GT World Challenge Asia GT3 AM Cup champions Climax Racing. You shall be in pole position for victory when you invest in CONSPIT's hardware. If you'd like to know more, be sure to head to conspit.com today. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the racing continues in a week's time with our penultimate week of racing, seeing us stay in the US of A but make our way from the West Coast to a bit further towards the East Coast, and with it to the state of Florida for the Sebring International Raceway. Many of our drivers will have had frustration today with the chaos at Long Beach, but at the old Hendricks Army Airfield at Sebring, who will be able to take flight across its rugged road surfaces and come away victorious? We'll come tune in next time in a week's time on Wednesday the 26th of November 2025 to see how the story of the 2025 Season 4 iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT series continues. But until then, well, we have been the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, also known as TX1 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, like our drivers, remember to stay on track. Good night.